What does it mean to dream of talking to a dead person? Death is an uncomfortable topic for most people. No doubt about that. A dream of a dead person talking to you naturally can be quite unsettling. In fact, it can be such a disturbing image that you probably would have a tough time interpreting it because you're so emotionally triggered. You don't really know how to approach it. But there's a bit of good news. These dreams can actually be quite insightful and possibly even life changing if you only choose to overcome your initial fear and apprehensiveness about its symbology. Another piece of good news is that dreams involving death, maybe it's somebody dead talking to you or you dying, are not predictive. They're not prophetic. So don't worry about them happening. Now, there's a slight chance that it may come to pass, but generally speaking, these are more symbolic than anything else. What does it mean to dream about someone dying while they're talking to you? What you're seeing is a process. This is a process of somebody going through change. Maybe you have a friend who you have known for quite a while, and in the back of your head, you think you know that person. In reality, the reason why you're so comfortable about defining that person, contacting them, or hanging out with them is you think they have a special role in your life and you have defined that role. Well, they're going through some changes. And a lot of the times, you have defined them so narrowly that you're blind to the changes that they're going through. And in reality, they are becoming a different person. There are many layers to people. And a lot of the times, we prioritize certain layers. And when we go through changes, other layers emerge. But they've always been there. And that's precisely what's happening to your friend. So the old friend of yours, with their old personality, their old mindset, is giving way to the new one. So in that respect, their old self is dying. And the question is, are you willing to let the friendship survive that? You can still be friends, but it could be at a lower level of contact and lower level of intimacy. It's both. It's up to you. But keep in mind that your friend is going to change regardless of whether you like it or not. This type of dream can also indicate that you're afraid of death and you're just using this image of your friend dying as a projection of your own anxiety. It's perfectly normal to fear death, but in dream symbology, the real death is parts of you changing. Now, why would you fear change? Well, if you're completely honest with yourself, you're going to be like most people. We grow accustomed to looking at life a certain way and dealing with things in a way grown accustomed to. That's just what we are. We're creatures of habit. And that's why any kind of change, whether we see it or we become aware of it in small batches, usually trip us up. They usually leave us unsettled. And right now, your subconscious is noticing this and things are bubbling to the surface. You better get a handle on this before destiny or fate or whatever it is you want to call it hands you the change that you may or may not be all that comfortable with. Again, it's your choice. What does it mean when a dead person appears in your dream and shocks you with their words? This is kind of a double meaning. There's a couple of things going on at the same time. The two themes here is the shock of the dead person and what they have to say. You know that this person has passed away. You know that this person is no longer around. And seeing this person in what seems like full living energy throws you off. It's very vivid. It's like watching 4K graphics for the first time. You can't believe that this person is still alive. But you know, at the back of your head, this person has passed away a long time ago. So this disconnect between your senses and your knowledge or recollection is shaking you up from inside. You can't quite make sense of what's going on. And to make matters even more freakier, this person is sharing with you some secrets that are so out of this world, so out of character, that it's just blowing your mind. What your subconscious is doing by using these techniques is that you have some sort of conversion or change of mind happening in your life. And you're really not quite at peace with it. You're not rejecting it flat out, but your mind is changing because the facts on the ground are quickly changing. As you probably already know, intelligent people, when presented with new information, usually change their opinions. If you refuse to change your point of view, even when presented with new information, you're no longer dealing with reality as it exists. You're being dogmatic. You're being hard-headed. So a lot of this is throwing you off. And part of you wants to project a certain image because you feel invested in it. You feel that that's the reason why people respect you. But there's also a part of you that would like to grow, would like to be open to new experiences and open to new analysis and new interpretations. So you have this healthy ferment going on inside you, but there's also a part of you that is very stubborn. What does it mean to dream about dead people in normal settings? What makes this really trippy is that you are seeing people that you know for sure are dead. No doubt about it. These are not people you haven't seen in a long time, and it's an open question whether they passed away or not. You know these people are dead and gone. But there they are, full of life. Some are laughing, some are offering their opinions, and they're seemingly enjoying life, and there's nothing off about them at all. You know that there's some dreams that show or present dead people like they're zombies, like your aunt or your favorite uncle, for instance. They appear in your dream, but half their face is melted off, or your aunt's brain is exposed. I'm not talking about that kind of dream. In this dream, it's like you know that this is happening in the future or right now. It's not happening in the past, and they're full of life. It's as if you are looking at them straight in the face and they are in the pink of health. Everybody's happy. They've got funny stories to share. What this type of dream is showing you is that you have a tough time dealing with the fact that death is a part of life. Your subconscious is trying to communicate to you issues regarding closure. Please understand that if you want to walk into that open door of the future, you have to close doors behind you. And part of this maturity process is the understanding that people do die. People do pass away. And I'm not just talking about in the physical term. I'm just not talking about a literal death and passing. I'm also talking about figurative issues. I'm talking about friends drifting apart, relationships falling apart. This is all part of life. The old has to give way to the new. And there's a part of you that seems to be insisting that you are immune to this need to move on. People change. You have to let them go because they're going to let you go when the change you go through doesn't fit their journey. Be ready for that. Be okay with it because that is part of the flow of life. And when you look at these people who are obviously dead, laughing and having the time of their life, allow yourself to join them in their celebration because what they're doing is they're simply enjoying life as it exists. We're here and then we're gone, all in the flash of a second. That's just the way life is. Be at peace with that. Because the more you hang on, the more miserable you will make yourself. What does it mean to dream about a dead friend? Dead friends pack a lot of meaning because at the end of the day, all of us are cemeteries. Of course, I mean this figuratively. If you don't believe me, think back to how many stories your dead grandparents told. Maybe you have a friend that you miss a lot. Think back to the good times you've had with her or him. We're all repositories of memories of dead people. And when we die, the ones that we've touched, the ones we have made an impact on, the ones we have influence in our lives, also become repositories of dead people. We're all walking cemeteries. I don't mean to wig you out with that more seemingly morbid analogy, but I can't think of any better analogy. That's what human life is. For it to dream about the future and be excited about the things to come, it has to resign itself to the fact that it is also a repository of the past with its death, with its passed away memories, with its relics of history. Be at peace with this. So when you're dreaming of a dead friend, lose yourself in the moment. Enjoy their company in the dream. Enjoy the present moment because there's nothing to prove. There's no mystery to unravel. You are just reconnecting with your all too human ability to connect on a personal level. Enjoy it, savor it, and then let go. Because pretty soon, you too will go. And other people have to let you go. And on it goes. Like a wheel. What does it mean to dream about a dead relative? If the focus of your dream is family, and there's this subtext of death and passing away, your subconscious, in addition to the motifs and the themes raised in the dead friend dream symbolism above, is actually inviting you to think in terms of legacy. I don't know if you've decided to have a child or not, but it doesn't matter. Everybody on this planet can leave a legacy. Most of us do. Most of us leave a legacy in the form of a child. Now, that child can take many different forms. It could be the conventional definition of a child, which is a daughter or a son, but it could also be a business. It could also be a book, an academic chair, a community project. You have to understand that when you are thinking of family, your family is interconnected, not just with each other through blood and DNA, but also through history. When you look at the passage of people from one area of the world to another and from within different areas of the same country, we're not just looking at dots moving around. We're talking about hopes and dreams. We're talking about solutions. We're talking about people who take the earth and shape something new. You're part of that experience. That is the legacy I'm talking about. And it doesn't matter whether you have children or not. Reconnect with that. Understand the impact you have on people. Understand that whatever it is you're building can survive your temporary stay on this planet if you set it up correctly. This has a depressing subtext. It really does. Are you ready for it? The vast majority of people who spend their time here on Earth spend it anonymously. They're so focused on just getting by from one day to the next, or taking care of their own, or getting their own share, that they don't have a big picture. They don't buy into the grand projects that cement their role in history, no matter how anonymous it may be. They can't be bothered. Millions of people have passed through history, and most of them are forgotten. Most of them have turned to dust. And the only way they are part of the stream of history is because they left children. So that's always an option. But if you don't want that option, or if you don't want something more, make sure that what you do today has an impact. Make sure you sign your work with quality. Make your assistance count. Now, it would be great if you decide to write a memoir. Maybe you go to a place like dictateyourownbook.com and fill out a form, and then answer the questionnaire they have by speaking into a microphone. They then transcribe what you have to say, and out comes a book. Maybe you can leave that for posterity. Or you can write your own. You can type out your own memoir, but you make sure that you have enough time and discipline to do that. That's the great thing about Dictate Your Own Book. They just give you a structure, and after a couple of hours, you're done. The next step is you pick up your book. Pretty cool, right? But leave something. Come up with something. Don't expect credit. Just know in your heart you did something, and for however long and in your own little way, you changed the world. It doesn't have to be grandiose. You don't have to be the second coming of Mahatma Gandhi. It doesn't have to be like that. Just know in your heart that you are here. Because that image of a dead relative is speaking to you in terms of your relationship with history. We're all struggling with legacy. It's the back of our heads, and it's only going to scream louder and louder as we get closer to our deathbeds. Unfortunately, most people don't have this level of awareness, and that's why they turn to dust. What does it mean to dream about a dead brother? A dead brother symbolically represents commitment. It represents loyalty and the willingness to go the extra mile. It also represents faithfulness, shared experiences, but also conflict, rivalry, clashing ego, overlapping territories. I know I've said a mouthful, and a lot of these seem to be contradictory and headed in seemingly contradictory directions, but that's life. Probably already know that. And just as you love people in your family, there's part of them that pisses you off. There are things that they do or that they say on a regular basis that just gets your goat. That's the way it is. The question is, do you realize that they do not stop being family? And this is where commitment and dedication come in. What really messes all of this up is when we try to change the ones we love. We think we're doing them the favor. But in reality, we think we know better. And that's part of the conflict. That's part of what triggers or sustains the chain reaction. So when you see your dead brother or a brother who's still alive, but in your dreams he's dead, your subconscious is trying to bring up these issues. And when you wake up, you owe it to yourself practice a little bit more self awareness and think these through. Maybe make yourself some hot coffee and just breathe deeply and think about these subtopics one by one. And next time you have your brother over, you guys can talk in an open ended way, and you'd be surprised just how open they may be. And this can lead to a sense of closure, reestablishing ties, strengthening bonds, otherwise increasing the value of your family commitments and loyalties. What does it mean to dream about dead parents? Dead parents, on the most superficial and obvious level, indicate closure issues, leftover emotional trauma, and whatnot. Let me get that out of the way first. Please remember that there is no such thing as a perfect father or mother. There's always room for improvement. And unfortunately, a lot of people, I'm talking about a grown adult people here, fully grown men and women, at their advanced age, keep talking about their dead parents. Like maybe your father abandoned you or your mother wasn't very encouraging and was emotionally cold. Whatever form it may take, please understand that there is a point in your life where it's no longer your parents' issue. It's your issue because you've become an adult. For some, that could be as early as 10, 13 years old. For others, it can be in their 30s. Whatever the case may be, there is a line. Cross over that line. There is a line where you just stop blaming your parents and understand that your life has turned out this way because of choices you have made. Sure, the initial chain reaction, if you will, was started by your parents and the people before them and the people before them. There is such a thing as an intergenerational curse. Anybody who has survived a family afflicted with drug addiction or alcoholism knows exactly what I'm talking about. But at some point, your personal responsibility as an adult breaks that chain. It has to. So either you actually break the chain and stop thinking a certain way, behaving a certain way, feeling a certain way, so you can start living a certain way, or at least mentally understand that it's your responsibility, but you dropped the ball. And you're at peace with that fact, and because of that peace, you're less likely to pass the curse to the next generation. Another way to do this is to just be open with your kids. Tell them, I'm a lousy parent. They yell at you. I've abused you in the past. I know it's lousy and I have no excuse, but this is our history. And I encourage you to break it. I did a lousy job. I didn't break it. But you have a chance. I know you may hate me, but please move on. Let me move on. So you know where you come from and you know the opportunity that you have right here, right now, to chart a different path. Dead parents in your dream are dead for a reason. Let them die. Let them move on and chart your own path. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't forgive them. This doesn't mean that you throw away all your love and affection for them. By all means, hang on to that. But also chart your own path. Understand that you are responsible for your own happiness and fulfillment. There's nobody left to blame. They're all dead. And even if they're alive, allow your tendency to blame them to die. Let it go. Make a clean break. Reestablish your relationships. Establish new rules, set new boundaries, and boldly look forward to a future that has no generational curses. The good news is it's been done before. So let that fact encourage you. What does it mean to dream about a dead mother? Oh boy, the symbolic concept of a mother is so deep, so profound that we could easily talk for hours. But in the context of a dead person talking to you or communication with the past, That mother represents intuition and the nurturing and belonging and acceptance that flow from that. But you know what activates that intuition that you know is right, that you know will not lie to you, that you know you belong in, that you know you will be fully accepted? It's trust. This is the problem that a lot of people face in the modern world. The more access we have to information, the smarter we think we are, the less likely we are to trust. Because at the back of our heads, you keep saying, I need to measure it. You have to prove it to me. Fair enough. But at some point, you have to trust. Take the case of the chair you're sitting on as you read this or watch this video. Chances are, for a split second, you took a look at whatever it is you're going to be sitting on. It's not like you sleepwalked into the room and without even looking, sat down. That would be stupid. So for 1 nanosecond, you took a look. And in that split second of a moment in time, you chose to trust. Do you see what's going on? There's action and there's trust. They go hand in hand. They proceed in the blink of an eye. But there's trust. But your subconscious is trying to teach you through the dead mother dream symbol, is to exercise your trust, living in trust, living that your values will lead you to an outcome you desire. And if they don't, change your values, change your direction, but trust yourself. Have faith in yourself to keep moving. Give yourself enough rope to keep trying. But unfortunately, people don't want to do that, especially when it comes to intuition, because as you probably already know, in whatever life journey you may be on, there are certain junctures, there are certain points where you have to take a leap of faith. That's where this trust has to come in. So when you see your dead mother, or your mother was still alive, but she's dead in your dream, your subconscious is trying to bring out these issues, and you're trying to navigate them. So I've articulated part of it. Use that as a framework to come up with a deeper understanding that fits your specific circumstances so you can push ahead. Trust yourself more. Understand that life is a faith activity. Nothing can be so fully explained that you can boil it down to an equation. Because life is not a computer algorithm. It is not some code that is being run on some giant invisible cosmic machine. No, it's playing out in your life based on the interplay between your willingness to trust, your faith, and your self-conception. All of these combine to produce your day-to-day reality. The key is to be aware of it, understand the different factors, and then learn to trust. What does it mean to dream about dead grandparents? The interesting thing about grandparents is that they're like your parents without the drama. They're like your parents without the conflicts. So it's like everything that you love about your dad, your grandpa would possess, but without the authority issue, without the discipline issue, without the need for boys to surpass or replace their fathers. The ancient Greeks have a weird shorthand for this. And I think you already know this. The story of Oedipus, who killed his father. And the early Freudian psychologists were saying that there's always this need for the son to kill his father. Of course, this is all symbolic. And the idea is that you've been put on this earth, and your goal is to surpass what came before you. And this, of course, can create a lot of conflicts because some fathers cast a long shadow. They have big shoes to fill. And it gives their kids quite a bit of a complex. So when you look at your grandparents, on the other hand, there's still the love, the leadership, the guidance, but without these overhanging issues. I mentioned just one example between father and son. When you have a dream of your dead grandparents, your subconscious is trying to let you know that you have to start preparing yourself to remember enough about their guidance, remember enough about the support and acceptance and belonging that they've given you so you can pass it on. This is a legacy dream, but initially, legacy to you. You have to take stock. What have you learned from your grandparents? What have you learned from people who have mentored you or tried to pass some wisdom to you? Now, the next step is to collect all of that, line it up with your actual experience so you know what to hang on and what to throw out. And then once everything makes sense, it's your turn to pass it on. Again, legacy. What does it mean to dream about your dead grandfather handing you something? Depending on what's being handed to you, this can be a night vision regarding autonomy and the ability to be free of the past to the point that you can come up with your own solutions that fit your time frame and your emotional landscape at that time in your life. This usually happens to people who are, let's just say, fairly close-minded. I guess the charitable way to describe them is that they're very traditional. But there's also a famous saying by the German composer Mendelssohn. So, to paraphrase him, he said, "It's okay to respect the fire as long as you don't worship the ashes." Very close-minded people, or very traditional people, if you will, purists, if you will, focus so much on the ashes. They focus on the outward manifestations of cultural traditions or passed down wisdom that they obsess about the material form. They lose sight of the fact that these are ashes. They point you to a respect for the fire that produced those ashes. Know how to separate these two. The same applies to your grandfather dream. When your grandfather is passing on something to you, it's an obvious antique or it has some sort of sentimental value, pay attention to how you view tradition. Because we live in a world that's constantly changing. And if we get so fixated on the form and lose sight of the substance, we're not really doing ourselves any favor. Worse yet, we do a big disservice to our children because you are basically training them to be less flexible. Now, does this mean that you have to throw away all your values? Of course not. Those values will remain, but their form, the way they're configured, the way you articulate them, that will change with the times, and that's perfectly okay. What does it mean to dream of a dead person trying to talk to you? This can indicate that you have a tough time letting go of your biases. Maybe you think that certain things have to be talked about a certain way, or you have to go through a certain process. This usually plays out at work. This doesn't mean that you are just simply hard-headed. It can also mean like you're afraid of mixing things up, coming up with free associations, or you're simply just, shall we say, lazy. Because it takes work to weed out ideas, and it's passed on in a different way or bounced around other concepts and processes, especially at work. And you may think that you really don't have time for that. You might even think that's nonsense. So here we are. You expect things to be in a certain form. And for the most part, this may work, but understand why those forms exist. They're supposed to help you. They're not an ends in themselves. And a lot of people who get all caught up into office politics focus so much on structure and so much on symbols and designations of power that they lose sight of why they're working for that company anyway, in the first place. You see how this works? You see how this can relate to you? Be part of a group of people that will try to go back to the first principles of whatever group you're a member of. These are the people that actually love the organization, and given the right opportunities, these are the people that are going to actually push it forward or scale it up to where it needs to be. What does it mean to dream about a dead person talking to you and you refuse to listen to them? This indicates the attitude that you may have regarding the past. You may be thinking that because something is old, that it doesn't really have anything to offer you. Again, don't obsess about the form. Focus on the substance. Understand that substance will always remain. It just changes different forms. You just have to pick it apart and see how it's relevant to you today. Because if you're an inflexible thinker, you are really jeopardizing your career. As you probably already know, we are in the age of artificial intelligence and large language models and data science. Yesterday's college degree didn't prepare us for this world. So you have to be quick on your feet. And if you are a business person, you have to be open-minded in terms of your conception of the different ways opportunity can manifest itself. And one of the most common ways opportunity knocks on your door is when it disguises itself as a problem, a challenge, or even a disaster. What does it mean to dream about a dead relative whispering to you? There is such a thing as a whispering scream. The fact that the person is whispering to you means that you're being invited to tune everything out and zero in on what they have to say. Start with that premise. Understand that your dream of a dead relative whispering to you is different from other dead person communication dreams. Sit up and pay attention, tune everything out, and see the symbolic, and pay attention to the symbolic language that's being communicated. Are they talking about food? Are they going to be talking about going on a journey? All of these have different symbolic meanings, but you have to drown everything else out for things to be clear, for you to even have a chance of slicing, dicing everything and lining them up with what you already know.